Lena Miles pressed her gloved fingers against the cold metal console of her reconnaissance pod as the wind howled outside. Snowflakes, sharp as glass shards, tapped urgently against the reinforced viewport. Deep within the howling blizzard of the Cinder Peaks, Lena's headset crackled with static, and then, unmistakably, an alien voice. The signal was weak but persistent, like a distant cry for help that refused to die. Lena's heart pounded as she adjusted the frequency knobs. The harmonics shifted, revealing a strange melodic pulse that did not belong to any known human code. She watched the signal drift across her display, its coordinates locked inside a glacial formation several hundred meters away. Her breath fogged in the thin air, and each inhale felt like razor blades against her lungs. Despite her high-altitude training, Lena could feel the cold seeping through her layered suit. Still, adrenaline sharpened her focus. With a final twist of a dial, the distress beacon's pattern coalesced into a clear set of coordinates. Lena's fingers trembled with excitement and fear. "This isn't a routine glitch," she muttered to herself. "Something's alive out there, and it needs help." The idea of alien life, so distant and theoretical, suddenly became urgent and real. Outside, the reconnaissance pod's engines whined as they fought against the gale. Lena keyed the comm link to her ship, the Skyhawk, but the storm's interference turned her call into a distant echo. She tried again, heart sinking when only static answered. "Skyhawk, this is Recon 12. SOS code 317. I've got coordinates locked. Respond." Silence. The storm seemed determined to swallow her signal whole. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, drawing on every ounce of her resolve. The decision was clear. She would launch immediately, pod or no pod, to find the source of that beautiful, haunting voice. Minutes later, Lena's drop pod shuddered as it freed itself and began its descent into the swirling white abyss. Inside, the cramped cabin rattled with each gust, and Lena gripped the straps until her knuckles turned white. Through the small triangular window, the glacier below loomed like a fractured palace of ice, towering spires and yawning chasms, all hidden beneath a veil of relentless snow. Lena's pulse thundered in her ears as the pod pierced the clouds and plunged toward the frozen surface. When the pod finally slammed into the ice, Lena lurched forward. The impact rattled her helmet, and tiny cracks of frost crept across the viewport. She wrestled the containment hatch open and stepped into the world of howling wind and swirling snow. Every breath burned, but her training kicked in. Lena activated her environmental sensors and adjusted her thermal goggles to cut through the whiteout. Ahead of her, faint luminescent trails flickered across the ice, signs of advanced energy readings that glowed with an otherworldly light. Lena took her first steps into the blizzard, each foot sinking into loose snow. She set her jaw against the cold and squared her shoulders. "I'm coming," she whispered into the wind, her voice steady despite the roar around her. "Hold on." With determination fueling every movement, she vanished into the storm, guided only by the distant, pleading pulse of the alien beacon hidden deep within the glacier. Lena plunged deeper into the storm, her boots crunching on unstable snowdrifts. The wind roared like a living beast, but the faint glow of the energy trails cut through the whiteout. She followed the pulsing lights past twisted ice pillars and frozen crevasses, careful not to slip into hidden chasms. Every step was a struggle. Her suit's heating coils fought the cold, and her lungs burned as she forced each breath into her frost-lined mask. Suddenly, the glow intensified ahead, revealing a small cavern carved beneath the glacier. Lena's sensors registered multiple like signs, weak but unmistakable. She hesitated only a moment, then activated her helmet light and edged inside. The chamber walls gleamed with crystalline formations that reflected her beam in fractured rainbows. In the center lay three figures, pale as moonlight, their bodies curled against the icy floor. Their limbs were slender, and faint blue veins pulsed beneath translucent skin. Lena's heart raced at the sight of alien life so delicate and fragile. One of the figures stirred, lifting an elongated hand toward her. Lena crouched at a safe distance, calming her racing thoughts. She keyed her comms mic. "I'm Lena Miles, United Earth Recon. I come in peace." Her voice crackled in the pod channel but carried clearly in the small cave. The nearest alien's eyes, large and opalescent, flickered with relief and fear. Lena unlocked her emergency pack and produced a thermal blanket. She approached slowly, laying the blanket over the shivering form. The creature tucked its limbs with gratitude, its body temperature sensors suddenly spiking back to safer levels. Lena scanned the others. One lay unconscious, breathing shallowly. The third watched her with cautious curiosity. Using her universal translator device, Lena played a soft series of tones. The translator hummed, then a gentle click sounded. "We thank you," Lena spoke, and the device repeated the words in an elegant sing-song voice. The nearest alien uttered a symbol phrase, "Shard beasts." Its voice trembled as it pointed past Lena toward the tunnel entrance. Lena frowned, her breath visible in the helmet. She knelt beside the unconscious alien, checking vital signs. The reading showed severe hypothermia and low oxygen. She overrode her suit to share heat through the blanket. As warmth seeped in, the alien slowly opened its eyes, confusion melting into trust when it saw Lena's calm face. Outside the cave, the storm seemed to grow louder, as if the mountain itself warned them. Lena stood, helping the first alien to its feet. It leaned on her shoulder, surprisingly strong despite its fragile look. She nodded at the third creature, prompting it to follow. Together, they formed an unlikely group. A human and 3 rescued aliens, bound by a shared peril. A distant roar echoed through the glacier tunnels, a sound not of wind, but of something massive moving on ice and metal. Lena's pulse raced again. She tightened her grip on her plasma sidearm, though she hoped not to use it. The aliens murmured among themselves, fear in their melodic voices. Lena straightened, her goggles scanning the darkness beyond. "Stay close," she whispered, more to herself than to her companions. The path back to the surface lay ahead, but now they knew they were not alone, and that a far greater threat hunted them in this frozen underworld. Lena led her 3 fragile companions through the narrow ice tunnel, every footstep echoing against the crystalline walls. The glow of their suits' lights danced across jagged stalactites as they moved deeper into the glacier's bowels. The unconscious alien, whom Lena now called Kara, rested on a makeshift stretcher of thermal cloth beneath the arm of the third creature, whose amber eyes reflected both fear and fierce determination. A distant grinding sound grew louder, a metallic rasp that sent shivers through the group. Lena's breath caught. She pressed a gloved finger to her earpiece. "Recon to Skyhawk," she whispered, voice tight. "Do you read me?" Static answered. The storm above had severed her link. The tunnel sloped downward toward a widening cavern. Lena paused at its mouth. Before her stretched an immense chamber, ice walls carved by time into swirling patterns. In the center stood a monolithic alien structure, glass-like spires forming a protective ring. At its heart pulsed the same melodic beacon Lena had first decoded, only now its rhythm was irregular, as if it strained against a terrible force. Her alien guide, the one who had first spoken shard beasts, raised a trembling finger toward the spire. It opened its translucent mouth and spoke words Lena could only partly parse. The translator device caught "core" and "destroy." The creature gestured urgently, then winced in pain. Lena realized the structure was the distress beacon's source, its power dwindling under relentless assault. A low roar shattered the tense hush, closer this time. The ground trembled. Lena drew her plasma pistol, and her companions pressed in behind her. Kara, half-conscious, whispered in a soft musical tone. "They come." The first thumping footfall sounded, massive and deliberate. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she edged toward the spire, scanning the darkness beyond. From the shadow emerged a pair of glowing eyes followed by segmented limbs of gleaming metal and ice. The shard beast stood 15 feet tall, its crystalline carapace churning with frost. It sniffed the air, head tilting as if sensing intruders. Lena steadied her aim, finger trembling on the trigger. The beast lunged. Lena fired a burst of plasma, the beam sizzling against its armored flank. Cracks spidered across the carapace, but the creature only snarled and advanced. The alien guide let out a shrill cry and stepped forward, raising a gauntlet hand. With an effort, it summoned a ripple of blue energy that rippled from the spire, momentarily freezing the beast in place. "Now!" Lena shouted, racing to the base of the spire. She jammed her plasma pistol's barrel against the glowing core and fired. The beacon erupted in a blinding flash, beams of light lancing outward. The shard beast reeled, claws slipping on the slick ice. A thunderous crack echoed as the cavern walls began to fracture. Chunks of ice shattered, sending shards tinkling to the floor. Lena grabbed Kara's stretcher, her companions following as she sprinted toward the tunnel's entrance. Behind them, the spire imploded, its fragments scattering like jewels across the chamber. They raced through the collapsing tunnel, the roar of falling ice overhead drowning out all thought. Lena's lungs burned, adrenaline propelling her muscles. At last they burst into daylight, the storm still raging but distant now. Safe on the glacier's surface, Lena collapsed onto the snow, breathing hard. Her alien friends huddled around her, gazing skyward as the wind carried away the beacon's final pulse. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the storm's distant howl and the soft breathing of survivors who had risked everything to save one another. Lena blinked against the glare of the pale sun as the wind's fury seemed to ease. Snow crunched beneath her boots when she tried to stand, her legs trembling from the sprint through collapsing ice. Beside her, the three aliens, Kara leaning on Lena's shoulder, the middle guide hobbling, and the third creature scanning the horizon, looked equally spent. Lena lifted her arm and tried her calm link again, voice hoarse. "Skyhawk, this is Recon 12. Do you copy?" Static answered. She replayed her helmet mic's feedback and pressed harder. "Skyhawk, do you read? We need extraction. Urgent." No response. Lena's jaw clenched. She scanned the distant ice shelf where she crashed. No ship hovered. Her breath puffed in white clouds inside her visor. She toggled her suit's uplink to priority channel. Military code read, but only silence replied. Behind her, the aliens gathered close. Kara's opalescent eyes flickered with worry, and she placed a gentle hand on Lena's arm. Lena offered a shaky smile. "We'll get you home," she promised, though her own doubt shivered inside her like the cold. Lena dug into her pack, pulling out a portable beacon transmitter, a last resort distress device. She set it on the snow and keyed in a direct uplink to Admiral Cruz's command ship, the Envoy. The transmitter's antenna shot a thin beam into the sky. Lena's heart raced as she hit send. Moments later, a crackled voice came through. "Recon 12, this is Envoy Command. Stand down and return to base camp immediately. Mission aborted." Her pulse thundered at the words. "Mission aborted? But sir, I have live alien subjects in need of medical care." "We can't. Stand down, Recon 12. You are ordered to disengage. Envoy out." Lena's hands shook as she deactivated the uplink. The aliens watched her, confusion and fear in their luminous eyes. Lena swallowed. "They don't want us here," she murmured. "They're calling this unauthorized." Kara's voice, soft and melodic, pressed through the translator. "They fear what they do not understand." She laid a thin hand on Lena's cheek, warmth seeping through. Lena felt a surge of protectiveness. She turned away, setting her jaw. As she packed the transmitter back into her bag, a high-pitched tone came from her suit's data port. An incoming file. Surprised, she opened it. Video footage streamed in, a live feed of her rescue operation, recorded by her pod's sensors. Below it scrolled text, broadcasting on open channels. Across the frozen plains, the signal jumped between satellite links and relay stations. Lena realized someone inside had overridden command orders and shared every moment of her mission with the world. Her heart leaped. She glanced at her alien companions, whose pale faces shone with hope. Lena tapped her helmet mic. "This is Recon 12. I have live alien survivors. I am defying orders for their safety. Humans, we must help them." On distant screens aboard warships and bases, commanders paused. A buzz of voices filled channels as crews watched Lena struggle and the aliens' fragile forms huddled in blankets. The rogue broadcast had cut through the storm of bureaucracy. Lena exhaled, cold air turning into a fine mist. She folded her arms around her alien friends and looked skyward, where distant warships now pierced the clouds, their engines humming with renewed purpose. For the first time since the storm began, Lena felt a spark of triumph. The world had seen her truth, and help would come. She turned back to Kara and the guides. "Hold tight," she said softly. "They're coming." Together, human and alien, they waited under the bright sky, united by hope and guided by a single need: to survive. The distant thunder of engines grew louder as the first gleaming warships broke through the low-hanging clouds. Lena felt the ground vibrate beneath her boots. She tightened her grip on Kara's hand and watched as a sleek transport craft descended, its ramps unfolding like metallic wings across the ice. Soldiers in heavy cold-weather gear fanned out, their breath misting in the frigid air. From the transport emerged Captain Malik Wan, tall and confident in his dark uniform. His crisp salute to Lena was half formality, half relief. "Recon 12, he called, voice cutting through the wind. "I see you found friends." He knelt beside the aliens, offering a small, respectful bow. Kara blinked in surprise, then returned the gesture with graceful humility. Lena exhaled a cloud of white. "Captain, these are survivors of the Shardbeast's attack. They need medical care and safety." She glanced at her squad, who were already setting up portable shelters and medical units. "We're ready to move them to the envoy for treatment." Malik nodded, scanning the shattered beacon fragments lying like diamonds on the ice. "And the threat?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Any sign of more Shardbeasts?" Far on the horizon, a rumble answered, a deep, rolling growl that made snow showers drift from the nearby cliffs. Lena's heart quickened. "They're still here," she said, "and they're hunting the survivors." Without hesitation, Malik tapped his wrist calm. "All units, perimeter defense. Protect the evac site and prepare for extraction." Beneath his calm tone, Lena sensed the fierce determination of a leader who had faced impossible odds before. As soldiers assembled energy barriers and automated turrets along the ice ridge, Malik stood, brushing snow from his uniform. He'd offered his hand to Lena. "Come with me," he said. "We'll coordinate from the command pod." Inside the portable command unit, warmed by glowing panels, Malik spread a holographic map of the glacier beneath them. The ruins of the beacon's chamber glowed red at the center. Shardbeast tracks, marked by jagged lines, snaked through the tunnels toward the surface. Lena pointed to a narrow ice seam that led to an underground aquifer. If the survivors can reach that channel, the water currents might carry them beneath the glacier, out of reach of the beasts. Malik studied the map, his brow furrowing. "It's risky," he said. "But if we guide them quickly, we can bypass the main horde." He tapped a new route. "We'll send 2 teams, one to cover the survivors, the other to draw the beasts away." He met Lena's gaze. "Your call." Lena felt the weight of responsibility, but adrenaline sharpened her resolve. She turned to Kara and the guides, who waited with hopeful eyes. "We do this together," she said. "Stay close and follow our lead." Outside, the wind howled as distant roars signaled the approaching Shardbeasts. Lena and Malik emerged from the pod side by side. The soldiers fell into formation, and the evac shelters hummed to life behind them. Lena raised her voice over the rising din. "Let's move." Together, human and alien, they advanced across the frozen plain toward the hidden seam. Behind them, snow-white Shardbeasts surged into view, titanic silhouettes against the storm. Lena's pulse pounded, but she did not falter. With a crisp salute to her companions, she led the charge, every step driven by the promise of safety and the unbreakable bond forming between 2 very different worlds. Lena's breath came in sharp puffs as she led the small band toward the narrow ice seam. The wind whipped icy needles against their suits, but the survivors pressed on, trusting her guidance. Behind them, Captain Malik's diversion team fanned out, plasma rifles at the ready. their energy barriers flickering under the strain of the storm. The scene yawned ahead like a frozen tunnel mouth. Lena knelt, shining her helmet light inside. A thin stream of water snaked into the darkness, black and swift. "This way," she called, extending a hand to Kara. The fragile alien nodded, wrapping its slender fingers around Lena's gloved palm. One by one, the survivors slipped through the gap. Lena helped the middle guide lower the unconscious Kara onto a secure ice platform, then climbed down herself. Inside, the tunnel walls glowed with bioluminescent crystals, casting pale green reflections on the rushing water below. The roar of the shard beasts grew faint but persistent, a reminder that their pursuers were never far behind. Lena found a stable foothold and steadied her pack. "Hold on tight," she urged the first guide, who gripped her arm with surprising strength. They stepped onto flat stones set above the water's surface and began hopping forward. The current gurgled below, as if urging them onward. Suddenly, the ice beneath Lena's boot fractured. She froze mid-stride. The crack widened with a sharp snap. Lena's stomach dropped as a jagged chunk slithered toward the water. She lunged to steady herself, heart pounding. The guide beside her caught her elbow. "Careful," it whispered in alarm. Behind them, the tunnel entrance echoed with distant roars. Malik's voice crackled over Lena's comm. "Recon 12, how's your position?" Lena forced a steady reply. "In the seam. Moving survivors. 1 down, 2 to go." She scanned the path ahead. Another stretch of slippery stones, then a wider ledge that would bring them closer to a deeper channel. As the second alien stepped forward, the stones trembled beneath its feet. Lena braced herself, guiding its steps with arms outstretched. By sheer luck and careful balance, they crossed without falling. The guide paused at the ledge, turning to help Kara advance on a makeshift sled. Lena gave the first guide a nod and turned back to wait. A thunderous crash from above made Lena's blood run cold. Ice and snow cascaded into the seam behind them. She spun, raising her plasma pistol instinctively, but saw only the closing tunnel mouth blocked by a frozen avalanche. A gust of wind and snow seeped through the narrowing gap, chilling the survivors to their cores. "They'd sealed the entrance," Lena said, voice tight. The first guide's amber eyes widened in panic. Lena clenched her jaw. "No," she snapped. "We keep going." She pointed down the tunnel, where the water channel curved into darkness. "That way leads to the aquifer. We'll swim if we must." Kara, now awake enough to understand, floated forward on the sled. Lena knelt to unlock the sled's fasteners and help the exhausted alien climb in. The current's roar seemed almost welcoming now, a promise of escape. Lena wrapped her arms around the sled, thrusting forward into the icy water. The first guide dove in behind her, sleek limbs cutting through the cold. The narrow channel swallowed them as Malik's distant shouts faded. Above, the ice scene lay sealed, human help delayed but not forgotten. In the dark tunnel, Lena felt the current tug at her boots, carrying her and the survivors toward uncertain sanctuary. Every second counted as they slipped deeper into the glacier's hidden labyrinth, hunted but undeterred. Lena's teeth chattered as icy water sluiced around her knees. She pressed her back against the slick tunnel wall, guiding Kara's sled through the fast current. The alien clutched the sled's handles, its translucent skin quivering but its eyes shining with determination. Behind Lena, the first guide kicked steadily, its lid form darting like a fish through the dark water. The tunnel widened ahead, and Lena spotted a flicker of light on the far wall, bioluminescent algae coating smooth stone. She pointed and the guide accelerated, pushing the sled toward the glow. Each stroke burned in her arms, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. Kara's soft hum of gratitude echoed through the water, spurring Lena onward. Suddenly, a surge of current slammed into them from the side. Lena struggled to hold her position as the sled jolted. Rocks tumbled down from an unseen ledge above, clinking dangerously close. She lunged to shield Kara, but a sharp shard of ice nicked her suit. Water seeped in, chilling her deeper. Lena's breath hitched, panic flaring for a moment, But then she drew on every ounce of training she had. "Hold tight." She called into her suit's comm, even though the words came out muffled underwater. The guide beside her pressed forward, forging a path through the surge. With a combined effort, they pushed Kara's sled past the rocky cascade. Lena felt Kara's small hand press against her gloved palm in thanks. They rounded a bend and found themselves in a vast, submerged chamber. Pale shafts of light filtered through cracks in the glacier ceiling, illuminating a hidden ice lake. Warm vents at the lake's bottom sent gentle bubbles upward, melting sections of the ice into smooth, livable surfaces. Lena exhaled in relief. This place could be a safe haven. But the respite was short. From the darkness beyond the vents came a distant, metallic growl. Lena tensed, realizing the shard beasts could follow them underwater. She scanned the chamber walls. At the far end, a narrow ledge ran above the lake's surface, just wide enough for them to climb out. Lena gripped the sled's handles and edged it toward the ledge. The water here was calmer, and the guide surfaced first, pulling itself onto the ice with surprising strength. It reached back to Lena, helping her lift Kara onto solid ground. Lena climbed out, her suit's heating coils struggling to warm her frozen limbs. She pulled herself up, then said, "Hurry." As the survivors clambered onto the ledge, Lena glanced back into the water. Dark shapes writhed beneath the surface, shard beast silhouettes, their crystalline armor flashing coldly in the light. Lena drew her plasma pistol, leveling it at the water. She fired a warning shot. The beam sizzled through the water, scattering the beasts back into the dark. Behind her, the guide led Kara and the third alien to a cluster of warm vents. Steam hissed as water met ice, creating a safe pocket of warmer air. Lena helped Kara settle against the vent, wrapping the alien in a thermal blanket. Kara's breathing steadied, and its pulse warmed under Lena's sensors. Lena breathed hard, scanning the exit behind her. The ledge narrowed to a tunnel that sloped upward. She looked to her guide, whose amber eyes met hers with unwavering trust. Lena nodded. "This way," she whispered. Together, the four survivors moved toward the tunnel entrance. Every step was precarious, but hope drove them onward. Above, the sun dipped behind snow-capped peaks, and Lena realized they had only minutes before darkness enveloped the glacier again. She pushed away fatigue and led the aliens into the upward-sloping tunnel, where distant daylight promised safety and the next leg of their journey. Lena pressed her shoulder against the icy wall as she led the survivors up the narrow tunnel. The slope grew steeper with each cautious step, and loose stones skittered under their boots. Above them, the distant roar of the storm faded, replaced by the labored breathing of her alien companions and the echo of dripping water. Lena's suit temperature gauge blinked low. Her internal heater had been working overtime, but she forced herself onward. "Kara can't go much farther," the third guide whispered, its voice trembling like wind through a hollow tree. Lena glanced back. Kara's legs trembled, and the unconscious alien slumped on the sled. With a quick nod to the first guide, Lena knelt and slid her arms beneath Kara's shoulders, helping lift her to stand. The guide and Lena formed a makeshift brace around Kara, one on each side, and they continued upward. Their path wound beneath a crystalline arch that glowed faintly with trapped light. Lena felt hopeful. This glow meant they were near the glacier's edge. She glanced at the ceiling cracks, imagining sunlight just beyond. But hope was fragile in these depths. A sudden tremor shook the tunnel, and ice rained down around them. Lena's heart pounded as she shielded Kara and the guide. "Move," she hissed. Gripping tightly, they climbed faster, slipping on wet stone. Lena's boots found purchase on a narrow ledge. Above, a shaft of pale light pierced the ice. Heat brushed her face, contrasting the cold that seemed to burn her skin. She reached out, fingertips scraping toward the glow. The tunnel opened into a sloping ice ramp leading to a high crevasse. Beyond it, a landing platform had been carved by human engineers, portable scaffolding set against the ice. Soldiers in heavy gear waited, plasma rifles trained at the tunnel mouth. Lena exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Soft voices drifted from the soldiers as they helped pull Kara and the guides onto the platform. Lena stepped onto firmer ground, supporting the last alien with a gentle arm around its waist. The soldiers worked quickly, securing safety lines and medical slings around the survivors. Lena felt the warmth from their heaters wash over her frozen limbs. Above, the wind howled, but here the storm's fury was muffled. Lena squinted upward through the crack in the glacier. A transport ship hovered, its spotlight slicing through the snowfall. A cable winch descended toward them. Captain Malik's voice crackled over Lena's comm. "Recon 12, evac inbound, stand by." Lena watched as the soldiers guided the aliens into harnesses. One by one, the creatures lifted off the platform, their pale forms lit by the transport's searchlights. When Kara's turn came, Lena held her hand until the winch gripped the harness. Kara's opalescent eyes met Lena's with gratitude. Lena whispered, "Safe now," and the lift retracted, carrying the alien toward the ship. The last guide ascended, then the third. Lena strode to the edge of the crevasse. Below, the swirling storm seemed endless, but here she stood at the threshold of rescue. She tapped her comm mic. "Lena Miles, Fleet Commander, I'm clear. No sign of more survivors." "Copy that," Malik replied. "Sending pickup for you now." Lena turned and made her way to the cable winch for humans. As the harness secured her, she cast one last glance at the glacier's glowing arch behind her, where a human and 3 fragile aliens had forged a bond against impossible odds. The winch retracted, lifting her into the transport. The roar of engines filled her ears as the hatch closed. Lena settled against the harness, watching the ice walls shrink below. Her heart swelled with relief and pride. From the viewport, she saw the scout ships forming a protective ring around the transport. Ahead, the envoy's silhouette rose through the blizzard. Lena closed her eyes, letting the rush of warm air calm her. She had led the survivors out of darkness and cold, and their future together among the stars was about to begin.